Hello friends, this is a collective message from the light for December of 2021. And this month, the light is encouraging us to all remember our resources. So whether that be your coping mechanisms, the tools that you have for dealing with all the challenges life might present to you, your daily maintenance in terms of mental, emotional, spiritual well-being, physical well-being as well is important, and that we need to just be reminded of this every once in a while to, inventory our resources. So to be mindful of and remember what it is we have at our disposal to do the work that we need to do. So for me, that often is a regular practice of journaling and a regular practice of, meditative, prayerful time spent communicating with my guides and with the beings of light that I work with and co-create with. It also means eating mindfully and drinking enough water and spending amounts of time outside that feel healing and beneficial. Now, we're getting close to winter solstice here, so it's a little bit cold and a little bit snowy and damp. But, even being able to, in that weather, go outside for a few minutes, take a deep breath. We have a dog, so we go out with her, and that is a really beautiful time to just be grounded, be present. I will listen to an audiobook sometimes, but I like to be super aware of what's around me, particularly because the dog is very strong and has a tendency to want to go and get the deer when they're walking by. So I have to be mindful of what's happening in my surroundings. So what the light is saying is that we need to combine that presence that we bring to life because it's required of us. When I'm out with the dog, I have to notice what's going on around me. I have to be aware for her safety, for my safety, but also to use that time of presence to check in and be grounded. So to take the deep breaths when you're out there or when you're doing anything, really. This can be like while you're brushing your teeth, being present enough to recognize what you're doing. When you're taking a shower, being present enough to recognize what you're doing. I have a tendency personally to let my mind wander and let my mind take over. But what it's saying is that we are incredibly resourced in these moments of presence that we have to take, the things that we have to do, the things that are a part of our routine. Those are the places where we can so easily slip out and into our minds and let our minds and our anxieties and what we're worried about and what we're not in control of take over. And that actually brings us to another message that the light has for us this month, is to be mindful of what we don't have control over and to use those resources when we don't have control to control what we can. So what it's saying is that when we're faced with the things, and we all have the things that we can't control in our daily life, in the global world, in just the goings on about town, in pandemic times, all of it. When we're faced with these uncertainties that we really have no ability to control, that is when we bring forth our resources as well. And that's when we don't let our minds get out of control with what they're telling us about the circumstances, that we just ground back into the present and do a little assessment. What can I control right now? What do I have, the presence to be here with and for? So let's say you're making dinner and it's a time where you can tend to get a little bit out in your mind, tend to stop paying attention to what you're doing because it's routine and start to worry or stress or just get carried away with things. So instead, to ground yourself there in the present moment, in what you're doing, and find gratitude. So with the food, find gratitude for the food. With cooking, with what you're combining, really check in with, even if it's something you make all the time, really check in with what you're doing and how it all comes together, and notice the alchemy of what is happening in your mundane everyday life, because that alchemy is happening all around us. Everything we do is a process of transmutation. It's moving through time, through space, and through energies from one point to another. And you know, if you get really spiritual about it, it's not so linear as that, but we do live in 3D, and so it is linear. And that linearity can really allow us to expand in our understanding of how time and space and moving through time and space is a process of alchemy and is a process of healing. So with that said, I'm going to leave off here, and if you'd like to join me for the extended reading, which I will continue with now, you could come along on Patreon. I'm doing all sorts of wonderful things on Patreon, and among those things is a little bit longer look at the month ahead. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it helps, and I look forward to hearing how these energies play out for you through December.